The Horses, by the English poet Ted Hughes, appeared in his first collection of 40 poems, The Hawk in the Rain, in 1957. In the poem, the speaker describes a walk in the greyness of the early morning twilight, through a wintry wood, up the side of a hill, to the moorland beyond. Everything is cold, silent, and still. On the way, he encounters a group of 10 motionless horses who appear asleep, remaining undisturbed by his presence, even as he walks past them. He pauses on the moor ridge and witnesses the sunrise, which is, in contrast to what he has just experienced, an explosion of movement and colour. Profoundly moved by how it gives him a momentary awareness of his own position in the vast cosmos, he abruptly turns and descends back towards the wood. He encounters the horses once again. Even though they are now bathed in the early morning sunshine, which warms them, they remain as they were before, motionless and patient, a picture of serenity, symbolic of the immutability and beauty of nature. He concludes the poem with his heartfelt wish that, in the metaphorical streets of his future life, which will be noisy and crowded with memories of other events and people, he will be able to meet or freely recall this memory of isolation and enduring calm to bring him peace of mind. As with his other poems in this collection, there are echoes of works by other poets. This poem is strikingly reminiscent of an extract from the Romantic poet William Wordsworth's most famous epic poem, The Prelude. In the extract, Wordsworth describes an episode from his youth in the Lake District, when he steals a boat on a summer's night and rows out onto Ullswater towards the summit of a ridge on the other side of the lake. As his position on the lake changes, so does his perspective and sense of scale, and a terrifyingly huge peak, which has been hidden from him up until now, suddenly bursts into view. The sight fills him with awe and dread as he realises the vast scale of the universe, and he turns the boat around to return to shore as quickly as he can. These sights have a lasting impression on both Wordsworth and Hughes, but while for Wordsworth it is a terrifying one that haunts his waking thoughts and fills his dreams, for Hughes it is a memory that he actively wishes to be able to call to mind in the future, presumably because of the steadying and grounding effect of the horses, being as it is a calming antidote to the noisy crowdedness of memories of other events and people, jostling to be recalled. The poem is made up of 18 stanzas, 16 of which comprise 2 lines, while 2 comprise 3. It's written in free verse in that it has no fixed metrical or rhythmic structure, e.g. didum, 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 etc., and no set rhyme scheme, e.g. A, B, etc. Line lengths vary between as few as 2 syllables and as many as 16. Hughes also makes extensive use of enjambment and caesura and patterning of stressed syllables in places to both modulate the rhythm and reinforce his meaning. Extensive sound patterning, such as alliteration, e.g. tear, turned, consonants, e.g. cast in frost, and assonance, e.g. breath left, give the poem a sense of cohesion and musicality. Repetition of various kinds features heavily, such as anaphora, e.g. not a leaf, not a bird, parallel syntax, e.g. making no move, making no sound, and polyptoton, e.g. dark and darkness, and serve to emphasize the all-pervading sense of emptiness. The colour grey features 4 times and, in combination with other words, i.e. frost, iron, blackening and stone, form a semantic field of monochromicity in the first half of the poem. This contrasts with the semantic field of colour in stanzas 9 and 10, i.e. orange, red twice, and blue. Hughes also forms another semantic field of immovability and permanence, i.e. stillness, cast, statues, megalith still, making no move, draped, still, stood, hung, and endure, to evoke not only the calmness of the moment, but also the immutability of nature. Because the poem is describing a memory, it is written in the first person and largely in the past tense. The final two stanzas are governed by the subjunctive mood, i.e. may I still meet, which is used to express desires and hypothetical scenarios. In this case, it is the hope that he will be able to recall this memory years later. Hughes' structuring of the poem in 2-line and 3-line stanzas of widely varying line lengths enhances the idea of a memory that comes to him in a succession of stream of consciousness images, rather than in a continuous narrative. This structure also makes it impossible to read quickly, and so enhances the atmosphere of calmness that pervades the poem. There are 3 compound adjectives that Hughes has coined himself, e.g. hour before dawn, frost-making, and megalith still, which help to evoke the striking amount of unique detail which he is able to recall. The title, The Horses, pinpoints their significance in the speaker's memory, as their serenity remains constant whether during the frost-making stillness of the twilight or the flow of light of the sunrise. The poem begins, I climbed through woods in the hour before dawn dark. The verb climbed here suggests that the speaker is moving uphill, and the compound adjective hour before dawn to describe the dark evokes the special quality of light that you get in the short period of twilight in the morning just before sunrise, as well as in the evening just after sunset. Due to the low levels of light, the receptors in our eyes that are sensitive to colour are not activated, and so we see everything in shades of grey. The predominance of stressed syllables in this phrase, hour before dawn dark, and the alliteration of the heavy, plosive d sounds here, creates a monotone feel, which will go on to enhance the monochrome quality of the light. Hughes continues by personifying the evil air, the hardness of these initial vowel sounds evoking its life-restricting power, possessing as it does a frost-making stillness. Around him there is not a leaf, not a bird. The anaphora here with the repeated nota, emphasising the emptiness and lack of nature in this winter landscape. The world appears cast in frost, metaphorically as well as literally frozen, as static as something fashioned out of a hard substance such as metal. The harsh consonants of the sibilant s and the plosive t sounds enhancing the sense of inertia. He continues, I came out above the wood. He has climbed beyond the tree line and is now in open moorland. Even the misty clouds of his breath as it condenses in the cold morning air appear, in the original sense of the word, petrified or turned to stone. My breath left tortuous statues in the iron light. Note Hughes's intricate sound patterning here with the assonant e and the semi-consonants of the fricative th and f, evoking the sound of his breathing, while the consonants of the plosive t sounds in the metaphor left tortuous statues in the iron light, which makes the line hard to enunciate, helps to evoke impossibly elaborate figures carved from white marble. Even beyond the darkness of the wood, the light has the quality of iron. It is hard, grey, and cold. Hughes now describes how the light touches the heights of the moorland first, giving the retreating night a fluid quality, almost as though it has a physical substance, and is therefore subject to the laws of gravity, as it is pulled downwards. but the valleys were draining the darkness, till the moorline, blackening dregs of the brightening grey, halved the sky ahead. The heaviness of the plosive d sounds in the alliterative draining the darkness, enhancing this idea. The word dregs is used to describe the residue of a liquid, often containing sediment, like coffee grounds left in the bottom of a finished cup, and adds to this idea of the darkness as a liquid that is slowly seeping away, but is leaving a stain on the moorline, the border between the earth and the sky. Note the internal syllabic rhyme as well as the plosive alliteration of blackening and brightening, which also adds to the heavy tone. The way this moorline halved the sky ahead seems to be a reference to the horizon and the way in which the brightening grey of the sky stands out against darker land. The way Hughes starts a new sentence beginning with the coordinating conjunction and to introduce the horses makes them stand out and is an indication of their significance. And I saw the horses. Their presence is imposing as he describes them as being huge in the dense grey, 10 together, megalith still. A megalith is a large stone that forms a prehistoric monument, either by itself or as part of a larger group, such as at Stonehenge, and so not only gives an indication of their size, solidity and immovability, but also gives a sense of their eternal spirit and permanence, enhanced by the caesura here. The horses are clearly asleep as they breathed, making no move, with draped manes and tilted hind hooves, making no sound. The adjective draped to describe their manes suggests an elegant heaviness, which appears as though carved from stone. And the way their hind hooves are tilted rather than flat on the ground, thus giving them the appearance of having been frozen in time, also lends the horses a monumental quality. He continues, I passed. Not one snorted or jerked its head. They remain unmoved, giving no indication that they are aware of his presence. The way he perceives them as grey, silent fragments of a grey, still world suggests that they are separate from, yet still a part of, the world they inhabit. Note here how Hughes's form reflects his meaning, as this stanza is 3 lines long rather than the customary 2, suggesting the fragmentation of the second line into 2 shorter ones. In doing this, he uses the line break to visually separate the horses from their environment, while they remain linguistically linked through the repetition of the adjective grey and the sibilants of silent and still. The preponderance of stressed syllables in these 2 lines, which demands that the reader slow down, increases this sense of fragmentation. The speaker climbs higher. I listened in emptiness on the moorage. The curlew's tear turned its edge on the silence. A curlew is a large wading bird with a long down-curved bill and is known for its distinctive and somewhat haunting ascending 2-note call. Hughes uses the metaphor of a tear which turned its edge to describe the way it cuts through the silence, suggesting the way the jagged edge left by something that is torn becomes like a blade. This sharpness is enhanced by the plosive alliteration of the t sound in turned. The curlew's call seems to be the harbinger of the sunrise, a slowly detailed leaf from the darkness. The verb leafed describes the way the increasing light enables more detail to be seen, in the same way that leaves sprout and unfurl in spring. This image, in combination with the sound of the curlew, echoes the beginning of the poem, where Hughes describes the landscape of being devoid of both leaves and birds. All of a sudden the sun, orange, red, erupted silently. The sun appears over the horizon like a volcano ejecting lava, albeit without a sound. The commas here separate the colours and create 2 caesurae in the line to evoke a violence which is also enhanced by the consonants of the forceful r and plosive d sounds. The sun, splitting to its core, appears as a semicircle, bisected by the horizon, as it forcefully tore and flung cloud, shook the gulf open, showed blue. Its expelling of its energy, communicated by the verbs erupted, splitting, flung and shook, and the internal rhyme of core, tore, is overwhelming, as it has the power to banish the cloud and open up the gulf that is the sky, to the extent that the speaker gets a metaphorical glimpse of the vast workings of the universe in the form of the big planets hanging. This has such an overwhelming effect on the speaker that it is a literal as well as a spiritual turning point. I turned. This two-syllable line not only evoking the suddenness with which he changes direction, but also marking a definitive moment in the poem. He now describes his return journey, stumbling in a fever of a dream down towards the dark wood from the kindling tops. The way he stumbles suggests that he is unsteady on his feet, perhaps momentarily dazzled by the sunlight as he makes his way downhill, as well as disconcerted by what he has just witnessed. The word kindling relates to the small pieces of dry wood that you use to start a fire, and suggests the way in which the tops or the summit of the hill appears as though it has caught on fire. As he returns down towards the wood, he encounters the horses for a second time. And came the horses. There still they stood, but now steaming and glistening under the flow of light. The word still, which is working as both an adjective, meaning not moving, and as an adverb, meaning until now, indicates that they have remained motionless since he saw them the first time. Although now the warmth of the sun, its flow of light, the antithesis of the frost-making stillness of the twilight gloom, starting to burn off the moisture of the dew that has settled on them overnight, making them steam and glisten. Note how structurally this stanza is a mirror image of the seventh stanza, which comprised one long line followed by two shorter ones, comprising as it does two short lines followed by a third longer line, and suggests the way the speaker is retracing his steps. The sense of fragmentation remains, enhanced by Hughes's use of anastrophe here, which inverts the usual order of words in a clause. The quietly hissing sibilance of still, stood and steaming evokes the rising warm moisture into the air. Hughes goes on to revisit the imagery from stanza 6, as he describes once more their draped stone manes and their tilted hind hoofs, which are now stirring under a thaw, while all around them the frost showed its fires. The repeated adjectives such as draped and tilted is evidence that they still look the same as they did before. The oxymoronic and alliterative frost showed its fires suggests the way in which the sun is sparkling through the tiny ice crystals. But still the horses made no sound, not one snorted or stamped. Not only are they motionless, but they are also silent, with their hung heads patient as the horizons, high over valleys in the red levelling rays. The alliteration of the smooth, aspirated sound in hung heads, horizons and high in this simile irrevocably links the steadiness of the horses with the enduring stability of the horizons. The red levelling rays communicate the quality of the early morning light, as the sun's rays travel horizontally rather than vertically, as they do in the middle of the day. Hughes concludes the poem by juxtaposing this splendid rural isolation with the din of the crowded streets. This image is meant both literally and metaphorically. In his journey through life, going through the years, the faces, he expresses his sincere wish that he may still meet my memory in so lonely a place, between the streams and the red clouds, hearing curlews, hearing the horizons endure. In other words, he hopes that amongst all the other chaotic memories of events and people that are jostling for his attention, like people on a crowded street, he may be able to meet, almost like a chance encounter with an old friend, the memory of a time when the lonely cry of a curlew heralded a highly spiritual experience and a feeling of calm stability. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.